We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes of the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we stream at odd times. I'm your host, David Cameo, and I will be premiering the penultimate episode of the entire series of The Walking Dead World Beyond, titled Death in the Dead. It's bittersweet. We've covered this series from beginning to end, and it feels good, but you can definitely feel it throughout this episode as we discuss it. I know we're streaming at an odd time right now, but it's really the only time we've had. In case you don't know, I'm Jewish, and this week we're celebrating Hanukkah. So every night this week has been an interesting set of scheduled circumstances. So we've had to light candles every night this week, starting from Sunday night, and we'll end the following Sunday night, and even tonight, Saturday night and Sunday night, I'll be lighting the 6th, 7th, and 8th candles, in that order, obviously. And so this is really literally the only time I can premiere this episode, but not too much housekeeping. I think all I wanted to say was, if you could head over to our merch store, that would be squawkingdead.com, click the main menu and click the merch link. You can also find a link to our merch in all our YouTube videos. Just scroll a bit down in the description and you will find it. Why that's important, actually, is we're selling our merch. Well, we have new designs in our merch store. That's one. That's A, or that's alpha. Beta is t-shirts are currently at $13 a pop, which is great, as well as 35% off the rest of the merch store. So that's also good. But Gamma, not to be confused with Delta or 3 or C, anything you buy at TeePublic using our link, not even merch in our store, we do receive commission from. So even if you've already put some stuff on our merch store in your cart, you can go to other TeePublic. Just remember to click our link if you need to do any TeePublic shopping, because it's the easiest way, if you're already doing it, to support the podcast. We really, really appreciate it. If you're doing your shopping anyway, do it through us. Support us. Anyway, I have nothing else to say, but please, please, please enjoy this episode. And if you do make it onto this podcast, consider following us at ko-fi.com/squawkingdead. It's the way to know when we set up our recording sessions. It's when you know our unedited episode recordings drop. Or, since the seasons are sort of ending, the mid-season finale of Fear the Walking Dead is airing next week. We'll be recording that, as well as this series finale of The Walking Dead World Beyond is next week. We're going to be doing some off-season stuff, like mini Jackbox game sessions. We're going to do some watch parties, reaction video recordings, and it would be great if you knew about it, and you'd be more involved in the podcast, and you can steer the way this podcast can go. All you got to do is just follow. You don't have to buy a coffee. You don't have to join a tier membership just yet. It's just a good way to know what's going on behind the scenes. In any case, enjoy this episode. From my heart to yours, please, please enjoy. And if you are enjoying, please give us a like on YouTube. I don't care about the other platforms. Leave a comment if you've had something more to say. It really adds to the conversation, and we keep it in mind for the next one. See you in the chat. We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes of the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we go deep. And today we deep into Walking Dead World Beyond's penultimate series finale episode, titled Death in the Dead, which is actually a Thomas Mann quote. The quote is, "I will keep faith with death in my heart, yet I will remember that," let's be morbid, "yet I will remember that faith with death and the dead is only wickedness and dark voluptuousness and enmity against humankind, if it is given power over our thought and contemplation. For the sake of goodness and love, man shall let death have no sovereignty over his thoughts, And with that, I wake up. So he talks about, and I tried to figure this out. I'm like, I'm trying to rush for notes. I'm trying to figure this out at the same time. I'm having a hard time. But the first part is I keep faith with death in my heart. Yet I will remember that faith with death and the dead is only wickedness and dark voluptuousness and enmity against humankind. So it's a response to what Jada says to Leo in the last episode, if I'm not mistaken. She says to him, it's about life, doctor. But really, what Jadis is talking about is fear of death. The fear of death makes us do horrible things. And what Thomas Mann is saying is, don't let the fear of death make you not embrace living. And so he says, for the sake of goodness and love, man shall let death have no sovereignty over his thoughts. And with that, I wake up. And I love this context because the CRM talk as though it's all about life, doctor. Death over life, And then she says it's about, and death wins, right? And it's like, but that's if you believe that you are the last light, It's like, it doesn't have to be all you. It goes to what Elton says about the Endlings, right? Season 1. He says, I don't want to go out not having seen what the rest of this world has to offer. If we're going to go out, I want to go out on a bang. I want to go out knowing things. I want to go out seeing beauty. I want to go out seeing the world as it is instead of through books and stuff like that. The CRM is almost like they're like a meta villain in the sense that like, oh, we're here to tell you that this whole show was supposed to be about beauty in the darkness. I don't think so. It's about survival, doctor. And so they're like a larger than life enemy to respond to what the kids were out there to do.
Kind of see the CRM as being death in that quote, especially when you said like the darkly voluptuous. Is there anything better to describe the CRM than darkly voluptuous?
With death
that
and
just caught my ear.
Yeah, with death and the dead is only wickedness and dark voluptuousness and enmity against humankind. Yeah. So
that is the CRM. They are death.
Which is the response to Leo saying, becoming the monster to rid the world of monsters. So we have to become death in order to ensure life. In fear of death, we become death, right? There's this kind of weird thing where like you become the monster of your own making as a result of you trying to protect life rather than living it. I say that I only mentioned this quote because it really was a head scratcher for a second. And then I figured out the last second. I'm like, oh, guys, I have to share it now before it disappears from my brain. That's why I had to bring it up first. All right. It's not our usual style of opening the show, but.
Well, I want to start with Huck at the end and how much I'm feeling for her right now. We see her, with her guns pointed at Jadis, and then Jadis runs off and saves Mason, and then Huck gets in the Jeep and she's driving away, and we see her immediately start crying. I think she's having a moment where everything is really catching up with her. Maybe before now she thought she was doing the right thing, but she really wasn't. She still wasn't super sure. She was trapped between her friends and the CRM and wanting to believe that the CRM is doing good, even if they have to do bad to do good. But I think when we see her breaking down in the Jeep, I think it all kind of came crashing at her like, I've been wrong. This whole time I was wrong about them. And I think it really hurt her. I mean, how could it not, right? I mean, not only did the CRM lie to her, but her own mother lied to her. And I think we're seeing that really sink in for her. And it broke my heart to see her like that.
It doesn't help that until now, Kubelik has been indefinitely wished away
reassigned
into the cornfield.
Or whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Not resigned, but like, she'll be away indefinitely.
Reassigned. Yeah.
Which is always ominous because what does that mean usually? So
is she alive? Did they send her to reprogramming or whatever?
To the cornfield
She's
or
getting
whatever.
barcode.
Yeah.
Clever title on the clip, by the way. He's all barcode, no bite. I mean, it was right there, right? It was like you just have to find the right context.
I put a lot of thought into the clip titles when I'm doing them. Like, that's my favorite part.
That's why I love them so much. They're like my little babies, little titles, the clip titles. It's like your chance to kind of shine. And of course, I'm seeing a lot of sharing your personality in the clips, so it's great. It's weird that up until now, right, Rachel? Like up until now, with everything she's had to face up to, that now is the time she chooses to kind of go against the CRM, let's just say. And maybe it hits harder because at a lot of points throughout this episode, I still remember, like, there are like little signs of like her going against her brothers back when, her origin story. And I keep thinking to myself, what is the struggle she's having throughout these episodes? Why is she not breaking down? What fart, I'm going to say this out loud, what fart is she holding in this entire time, right? What is it that keeps her contained? We see her go through a lot, like especially when she flashes back to her washing up at Omaha's shores as Huck. But at the end of the episode, flashing back to when they had to break her arm, and her mom is holding her arm as the soldier breaks it, right? If somebody's gonna wreck your world, it should be me. I should be the one to guide that. And again, she lets out maybe a tear, but she kind of quickly bottles it up, and then throughout everything that's happening. But now she chooses. Her crying now gives context to all the time she bottled it up, because I think up until now she knew what she had to do. She repressed that. Well, maybe to parallel Victor in the last episode we covered just hours ago, Victor is the kind of person that goes with his gut. He just lets it fly. He just trusts it all the way, doesn't question it, whatever it is. Huck, up until now, did not trust her gut. She knew the difference between right and wrong. She was trained otherwise. But up until now, I think she's been repressing the notion of helping these people, knowing what she needed to do this whole time, but telling herself, no, these guys are the light of the world. This is what I was trained to do. But her guts are telling her, no, but this is wrong. This is dumb. What are you doing? What are you doing? So up until now, she's like, I can't believe I had to do what I had to do. I can't believe I had to do it again, let's say. So it's kind of a weird letting go again. And it's sad, too, like that she felt like she has to do this again to Brothers in Arms, right? To make a funny from that moment. That moment is an interesting symmetrical parallel to the beginning of the first season when Felix and Huck again, and are driving through, they're meeting Kubelik for the first time from the chopper, and they're plowing through the empties on the road. Do you remember that? And here she is now wiping tears away. But then I noted, I'm like, she's running over walkers in a Jeep again. Okay. And she's having not fun, a whole lot of not fun. So I thought that was kind of an interesting, funny to bring it back. The only reason why I remember that was because she was pulling up to the culling and maintenance facility, and like her headlights were red. I'm like, why are these? It's like an evil Jeep, and I'm like, oh, she plowed through a lot of dead to get to where she got. Evil Jeep. I personify my Jeeps.
I would like to talk about Mason.
Okay, that's an interesting nugget.
Okay, so here's my thing. Kubelik is supposed to sacrifice her daughter for the greater good, and Leo was supposed to sacrifice his daughter for the greater good. But yet the CRM is giving up everything. Yeah. Okay. Or even Iris, because Iris wasn't supposed to go with them. She was going to be at Campus Colony when it got taken out if she hadn't run away. Everybody's supposed to sacrifice their children or whatever, but yet the CRM basically was willing to give up everything that they were doing to get Mason back. They were going to let them go over Mason.
That's what you bring up a very good point. Mm-hmm. You're right. That is interesting. You caught me off guard on this one because I didn't really think about having to address this at all.
Now that I didn't even think about this before now, but now that you bring that up, I also find it strange that we never actually hear from Major General Beale while his son is being held hostage. Like, you'd think he would radio in and be like, where's my boy? Blah, blah, blah. Maybe he doesn't even, what if he doesn't even know?
Well, that's easy.
About his son.
I'll say that's easy. The only reason why is because Jadis is looking at her manifest and sees that Mason General Beale is on board and is scurrying away. Of course, Major General Beale doesn't know, and of course, Jadis is the one who has to report it. So if you were Jadis, would you report that they have Mason General Beale?
Kind of like why Strand, remember when Strand wouldn't tell Virginia that Dakota was gone until he found her? It's the same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense, right? You want to want to cover all your base. You don't want to early report that, hey, I fucked up, and no, but I got her back. She seems all right, Dakota.
Yeah.
Or
tell him you got tell him about the situation after you've resolved it.
Yeah, exactly. It looks a lot better, right? Well, it's not better, but it's better than saying, hey, I lost your boy, but I'll get him right back. Don't you worry, okay?
Yeah.
Mason General Beale is in Major General Beale's good hands. But maybe Rachel's question is a response to your question. Like, okay, maybe what's good for the goose isn't what's good for the gander. Maybe Jadis feels like banking on the fact that Major General Beale will uphold to the CR's overall principles. Maybe she doesn't feel like it's up to her. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
I'm just saying,
Jadis got where she got to make moves. You know,
considering they expect everybody else to sacrifice the people that they love, it's pretty hypocritical that they're willing to sacrifice everything the CR research facility is doing to save Mason.
I would say yes, but the only reason why I'm starting to understand why that makes, because that is a really great question, but you be Jadis and try to explain to Major General Beale. I like calling him Mason General Beale, whatever.
Yeah, but, I mean, hey, this is.
But no, but you're right.
The last light of the world. You gonna let the last light of the world be extinguished for some kid?
For your son, but that's the irony, isn't it? But see, and the problem is also that it's in Jadis's hands. So Jadis is talking a big game, telling everybody the premise of this story, or the other side of the premise of this story, and yet she holds it all up for one person, right? One person. So she's full of shit, right? You're right. You saying this, you've proven the CRM completely wrong. And in fact, there's a good symmetry. A good symmetrical parallel to what you're saying right now to what Silas decides to do for Dennis. Is we got to make a pit stop. Let's pick up antibiotics for Dennis. And then Felix goes ahead and for one person. And then Elton says, "Hey, there's saline. Let me get that for Indira." That'll come in later on in the next episode. But, case in point.
To bring fear back up again, that was the one thing they said about Jenny was she would not go out of her way for one person when they were trying to get medicine for Grace. Or fluids for Grace.
Right.
They made a point of saying that. Virginia was like, but then you made a detour to save a woman who's dying.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So Virginia was basically like CRM light.
if it was Star
CRM
Wars,
White Claw.
It'd be like CRM Rogue One, right? Oh, yeah, maybe. Like the CRM Zima. The Bartles and James. To put a fine point on it, what you just, and I totally didn't see that coming. What you just said negates everything that the CRM stands for. Everything. And, you can't blame Jadis because that's kind of above her pay grade. Like, okay, I know what the CRM is all about. However, I like my job.
She wants that promotion.
And how ironic, too. How ironic. Mm-hmm. You have Jadis concerned with her own technically, her own self-interest. Here comes the devil's advocate. And of course, Jadis feels like she has to do what she has to do because, of course, she wants to be there at the forefront of the last light of the world. What good is it if I lose my job, if I lose my position in trying to achieve the last light of the world? All that's going to be lost because I let a kid get killed. So I don't know. I don't know if she's ready to. Maybe she's not ready to sacrifice herself on that altar too. At the same time, right? To make the hard call to let Mason Beale die. It's a very interesting wrestling conundrum. One that's obvious. Okay, that's the problem. It's obvious to us why Jadis saves Mason Beale, but looking at their ethos, it shouldn't be that obvious, and yet it is, because we're the viewer. We have feelings in rational sense. I mean, that's okay, real.
That was my contribution. That was my contribution for the night.
But it's funny because what you say is so big, so much bigger than than what's on the surface, right? Because what's on the surface is something that's obvious to us, the viewer. But it's when you really pick it apart, oh my God, they're full of shit. You're right.
I think it makes complete sense that Major General Beale would be a complete hypocrite when it comes to his own kid.
Right. Well, okay, so this is a good gateway to what we talked about, or what we thought we had concluded on when it comes to Project Votus. I mean, we haven't brought it up ever since we talked about it, technically. I know it was just the last episode. But what we concluded was Project Votus was a smokescreen. Now, I still think that it is, and yet Jadis, even though Leo goes, your project is dumb. What is it? What good is it? You used it to kill a bunch of people. But Jadis still talks about it in terms of, but it's not dead. We used it to kill a bunch of people, but we still believe in what we're doing. And that's when I was just like, oh my God, they're crazy. They're just absolutely fucking crazy. And here I am thinking it makes more sense to me that they're full of shit and that and that Votus is a huge smokescreen for genocide and they don't really believe in the project. But now it's scary because if they really still believe in the thing, and General Beale, case in point, and this is what I wanted to get to, Jadis takes it upon herself to be the Simon and says, we'll kill a bunch of them to set the rest of them in place. You know, we'll kill like almost all of them to make an example. But Beale at the end of the episode, Beale in her ear says, no, you're going to get all the scientists. You're not killing any of them. You're getting all of them and you're bringing them right back to the CRRF. You're going to secure the CRRF and you're going to continue the research. And so I'm like, oh, they still like the smell of their own farts. So, okay. All right. Cuckoo. It's crazy.
Well, we also hear her tell Major General Beale we need to move up the Portland plan or whatever. Right. So, I mean, apparently he still knows about all the genocide. Like, it sounds like he's still calling those shots.
Yeah.
And
confirms
if he
another
is still
thing.
And if he is still planning on wiping out a whole city, I don't have any proof, but my gut is telling me if he is still willing to wipe out a whole community like that, that the project they're working on, is still important. Like, he does give a shit about Votus, I think.
Yeah. To further the point. But it does prove what Jadis is saying to the doctor and everybody isn't just a thing to buy time. I mean, it was so that the snipers can get in place and take them all down. But it confirms what she's saying is true, that they were genociding all these people or committing genocide to these people in order to cull the living. I kind of called it, but I didn't want to be right that they were trying to cull the living. I mean, to cull is to quietly subdue, to mercifully kill. Like, I mean, you cull sheep, you slaughter sheep, but you cull them and to kind of reduce their numbers.
No, they cull deer in the wild.
Oh, deer, yes. That's what I kind of meant. Yes, sorry. Yeah. Because if they overrun, they decimate your crops, they decimate your living environment.
Well, then they starve.
The ecosystem.
If they outgrow their ecosystem, then they starve to death.
Yeah.
Oh, I should say overpopulate their ecosystem.
Right. Well, they poop everywhere. It gets toxic. It's a whole thing. Oh, and then you add the whole prions thing, the whole wasting disease that is being spread around lately. It's horrible, which could affect humans too, and that can be a horrible thing. And for what? It is gruesome to think about the idea that it's to eliminate the competition. Well, thank God it's not that. However, the fact that what it is we crunched the numbers and we paralleled what's going on here to what was going on in the beginning of season 9 of The Walking Dead. What was happening in the beginning of season 9 of The Walking Dead was the saviors were being a drain on Hilltop Colony, mostly. Alexandria was trying to prop them up in whatever way possible, but Hilltop was clearly the breadwinner in the race against surplus or something. The saviors were not able to be fed. The only thing that they could do was possibly generate ethanol, and that's it. And then at the meantime, Hilltop said, hey, we got all the food. You give us all your ethanol. Now, people called Maggie an asshole for doing that. However, I mean, are you going to complain if you have a full belly? And no. I mean, you get to live another day, I guess. To her credit, she didn't genocide the saviors, technically. So kudos, Maggie. And then she promptly left. So there you go. And then the saviors went away anyway. So, but I like that there is a parallel because it's kind of a response to, what if we took what was going on here and brought this to a bigger stage? And I think this is probably the impetus of the show too. Funny enough, in the last episode, we brought up the fact that, The Walking Dead World Beyond is kind of like a response to Rick and Carl's vision for the future as a child and Rick's inability to bring it about. Right. And then what would it mean to have this shared alliance community, everybody working together? Well, this is the response that one community, like the Hilltop Colony, calls the other communities and say, fuck you, you're a drain on us. See you later. We are the last hilltop of the world. So it is kind of weird that it's coming to this point. And it's not the first time that we've even drew a parallel to Alliance of the Three being, Hilltop, Alexandria, Oceanside, the Sanctuary, etc. So Kingdom. Well, let's get back to Mason General Beale. What did it feel like for you to see Mason? Because this is more complicated a question if you give it a couple seconds to think about it. But what did you think about Mason still not believing, headbutting Iris first of all to get away in light of everything he's heard? What did that feel like when you first saw it?
It felt amazing to watch him headbutt Iris. after I got over that,
right. 2 seconds later.
Right. The thing is, I get it.
Okay.
I understand why Mason wouldn't want to hear what he's hearing and wouldn't want to believe what they're saying about his dad. It's his dad. Mm-hmm. Don't talk about my dad like that. I get it.
And not only the way they went about it, like, oh, your dad's doing all these terrible things while we have you tied up and kept in a fucking cage with walkers and shit. Oh, I'm gonna believe everything you say because, what? No, like, it was... I can see why he didn't, because they were totally out of left field and didn't prepare him or explain it. They just threw it in his face while they're in the middle of doing all this terrible stuff to him. Who would believe him?
Right.
They came off kind of crazy, right? I mean, we know they're right, but from Mason's point of view, they looked like crazy people.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to blame the audience for not seeing that. So like Leo, or I think it was Felix, one of the two said, we'll hurt the boy. This is like a way in the beginning, or we're prepared to escalate. And what's Mason supposed to think of? And even if they say the truth, which they don't, and that makes sense for reasons I said in the last episode, telling Mason everything is kind of a bridge too far. It's showing too much of their hand. If Mason knows too much, he may report back and say, oh, this is what they know, and then they have what to use against them or something like that. If the more that Mason knows, the more the CR will eventually know and find out and go after them. Like, for example, the biggest one is that they plan on going to Portland. If he knows about that, they know how to track them down. They know where they're generally heading to. So they can't do that. If one should ask, why don't they tell him everything? This is why. And so Hope has to make a decision. I choose my family before I take a chance on this boy who seems nice, seems innocent. And yet by the end of it, we figure out it's not that innocent. Because the thing that really bugs me is Mason hears all this and doesn't even think twice. He hears it from Jadis's mouth, of all people. That's the thing that killed me. Now, I still kind of don't blame him for what he does, because he even looks on at Percy. And I see this in his face, right? He's looking at Percy. He sees a dead Percy. I don't think he's ever seen a dead person before and thinks, I did that. It was you and your dumb friends. And then he gets neurotic. He says, you and your dumb family. You dumb, stupid, cocky face family, right? Like poopy, doopy face. Like, I don't know how he put it, but that's how I heard it in my head. Like, you and your dumb, poopy faced Bennett family. Screwed up dummies. Ugh. Sorry. I was just mad at him.
Not only that, but like just your regular teenage, I'm not gonna do anything you say mentality.
Yeah. Which I don't know. Like, there's that part of me that's like, can you blame him? But I'm like, I'm so mad at him. So basically what you feel for Iris, I feel towards Mason at this point. Like I can't blame him in a sense, but at the same time, I hate him because he doesn't see what he just did. I mean, he literally is just ironic. Like, do you see what you just did? Your actions caused this. No, but you're going to blame it on them? Oh, so what do you think they're doing? What do you think the CRM's doing? Oh, you're dying. You're being culled because it's your fault. You're being culled Portland, Omaha campus. It's your fault. You're a drain. So bye. Bye, bitch. Fuck you, Mason.
You could also see it as Jadis was just saying whatever she had to set him free or whatever. Like, he doesn't have to believe. I'm sure he's been brought up and brainwashed in the CRM manner for so long that everything they say is gospel. And I'm sure he probably figured Jadis is just saying what she has to satisfy them so she can distract them or do whatever to get me loose.
Yeah, and you could even tie that up all in a bow and just say he's said it twice, that he feels like he's a disappointment to his father because he couldn't take the military track. So there's always that specter hanging over him, like his father's disappointment. So like, maybe when faced with a life and death situation, he's like, maybe I could be the soldier boy that my daddy, fuck this guy. Okay, I understand what you're saying. There's that part of me that's very mad, and there's the other part of me that completely understands why he does what he does and all the reasons and motivations. So, trying to get his father's love is yet another brick in the fucking wall that makes a Mason General Beale. I hope you're listening, Jasmine. I want to see I really honestly want to know what you think about this. Because that's really the take I wanted, though, after Jasmine fawning. Sorry, I'm throwing her under the bus here. Fawning all over Mason. I'm just very curious to see what she feels now that he's caused this to happen or whatever.
The thing is, if I think about it from Mason's point of view, like, I think he's just a dumb teenage kid that he's in a situation because of who his dad is. Like, I mean, I kind of feel bad for him.
I do too.
If I were taken captive by some crazy family, I would probably headbutt somebody to get out of there too.
Yeah, and we also have to remember this happens within a matter of max hours.
And he's never had any experience out in the real world. He's been living at the frickin' research facility, forever how long or whatever. He hasn't had any experience with what's going on out there. He's as inexperienced as our group was when they left Campus Colony.
Right. So, and they've had a month and a half. Yeah, they've had a month and a half to acclimate. Mason has had maybe an hour and a half. No, and
a lot to process.
You're drawing a great. It doesn't change how I feel.
Yeah, and you want to believe the people that you've been living with for all these years. I mean, take our little group here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I believe in you guys, and I trust what you tell me. Now, if some crazy
okay.
No, like in real life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have our group, we have our people that we trust. If some outsider were to come in and be like, "Oh my God, Sharon D said this and blah blah blah," I'd be like, "No, she didn't. Shut the fuck up." Like, I wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't even believe it. Like, Mason's got to be feeling a little bit of that too, because these people have kept him safe, have provided him with a good life, as far as he knows.
And you know what else is funny? Even with Mason having done what he did, whatever the reasons, it still doesn't mean that later on down the road that little kernel that's stuck between his ears of what he heard isn't going to be rattling around in there for a little while when something else happens. He'll have that as a seedling in the last episode with what to do. Because I wonder, sometimes we're short-sighted beings in that we have to take care of the problem now and there's no tomorrow and blah, blah, blah. But and I know we only have one episode left. Okay, I get it. But there's always a chance to like John Dory says, both. This is not too late. It's never too late. And look, I mean, Mason he's not a bad guy. Like, in spite of the shit he says at the end, he says, "You're your dumb cock-a-face family." Like, in spite of that, and that could be his way of dealing with something gargantuan that he just ended a life. His actions ended a life. It possibly innocent. I don't know, whatever. Is anybody innocent? Who knows? But that could haunt him for the next episode, and we may see him in the next episode, and he may do something to maybe seeing that they're right about eliminating Portland. Maybe the fact that Jadis let the genie out of the bottle means that she'll feel free to let those farts fly, and he'll overhear her farting about gassing Portland of all things, and then it makes it so that he goes, "Oh, you're serious about this? They're an Alliance member." I mean, think about what he did. He put together a memorial party in the name of Omaha. This is why I'm having trouble squaring this circle, even in light of what he does. He does feel for them. I don't know if it's on the surface or if it's something he feels he has to do ceremonially. But there is a good part of him that wants to do good things. He is a scientist. He wants to help, maybe just he's a great parallel to Iris. He felt like he needed to be this way because that was the best way for him to fight for the future, to be a scientist, to adhere to the CR's doctrine of being that generation to serve the next generation, to serve the next generation. So that maybe that's the goodness in him. On the other hand, maybe the real him just showed himself, and then, fuck that kid. So I'm having a hard time here.
Are you under the impression that Mason feels responsible for Percy's death, or he should feel responsible?
I have a feeling that he's responsible because his reaction to it is very visceral, and it's almost counter to what we've seen before. He seems like a caring person, and so him reacting poorly to this tracks with him not being able to grapple with the gravity of the situation. I may be reading too far into it. I don't know.
Well,
what do you think, though?
First of all, anything is possible. If I were Mason,
thanks, Rachel.
This is the only way. This is the only way I can really think about it, right? I have to put myself in Mason's position. Just finding all this stuff out, he was being held captive by these people. Why wouldn't he feel like it's their own fault for getting themselves in that situation? Yeah, of course you're dead. You captured me. What did you think? How do you think this was going to play out?
Right. Still doesn't change things, right? You can feel both things, right? You can feel like they got themselves killed, and I still feel bad. sad. So people are weird like that, right?
I'll have to wait until the next episode because I don't know that I saw, or maybe I just have to watch it again because I don't know that I saw
I didn't
shock.
see it either.
I saw shock on his face, like, whoa, like you said, he'd never seen like a dead person before. Or I don't know that I saw him feeling responsible for it. I mean, he could. He absolutely could. I'd have to go back and watch again.
Yeah, no, I don't see him taking responsibility with his words.
Okay.
I just see,
or even like his expressions.
Yeah, I just see him reacting. You've seen it before when somebody actually does something wrong, but then doubles down on that thing, all so they don't have to feel the gravity of what they've done.
Yes,
we see that.
Yes, I know exactly
everywhere.
what you're talking about.
We see this everywhere, and it really, really is sad. People not willing to say, "Hey, you hurt me," or "Hey, I'm sorry, I hurt you." It's a shame. So that, and how can we expect him to feel the gravity of what he's done in light of the hour and a half he had with those people?
If I were Mason, I'd be praying for somebody to come in and kill all these crazy people that captured me.
Well, yeah, and maybe there's a little bit of that red pill in the Matrix sort of thing going on. Like, please bring me back into the Matrix. Please bring me back to a point where I was innocent. But then, okay, well then what about these kids who had everything taken away from them?
Yeah.
That's what's sadder.
He's got to look more at Hope because I don't think he's feeling any sort of sympathy towards Iris right now. But if he can think about Hope and what she's been through, what she's lost, he might be able to see it from that perspective. But Iris just crazy.
Well, and maybe just like us, how can we wrap our mind around the fact that this group, remember like at the top of the season, how can we wrap our mind around the fact that this group had genocided 100,000 people and is about to gas 90,000 more or whatever it is, 87,000 more? That's unfathomable. It's like, it's hard to grapple with. So we're expecting a kid to do that too. As an audience, we know everything. As Mason, maybe I know everything. I'm not sure. Maybe I didn't see it for myself like you guys did in the audience. Okay, you've got me, Rach. No problem. Yeah, you got me. Now I'm feeling it. Now it's sinking in now. Now that I've had time to think about it more than Mason has. Yeah, I think I'm getting it.
It's how these therapy sessions hash out.
Yeah. All right. To balance this heaviness of this moment, did you laugh when you saw two separate scenes full of CG walkers? CGI deer much?
The only thing I will say is we have seen much, much worse CGI.
Yes.
We've seen worse.
Honestly, I will say this much. The CGI deer takes the cake, right?
Yes. By far.
Bar none. Yep. That was the worst. But what was, and I'm almost not even criticizing it. I'm gonna be real with you. It was almost like a break, right, from all the heaviness of this episode. I mean, I think I saw in the background a walker just kind of doing like a dance, like doing just shimmying around with his arms, like dancing in the background. I swear to God, man. If you know what you should do, just put that shit on loop and then just like watch it over and over again to see the different CGI walkers in the background. And oh my God, I swear to God, I saw one that was dancing. I swear to God. Like some smartass thought he could get away with dancing in the background of a Walking Dead World Beyond sketch. And then some editor let that in. So who's to blame now, Mason General Beale? Did you edit this episode? I don't even know your real name. Just call you Mason General Beale. Anyway, that was pretty funny though.
Yeah.
Well, and then of course we have to sort of bring up the hamster ball. How do you feel about that?
I thought that was fun.
It was
fun. That
was a nice
exactly
moment.
What two teenage boys would do.
And especially those two.
My only
it was so
thing
nice
is, like,
to see them again.
There's no way they stood up. They would have fallen at least one time.
Oh yeah. But it was nice to see Elton get his face sprayed full of blood from one of them. I was like, oh
yeah. I kept waiting for that to happen. I'm like, there's a lot of mesh grading there. Some of that's got to get through. Come on.
Yeah. Boy, did
and
it
then
ever.
it did, and I'm like, yeah.
You started crying.
That was fun. I enjoyed that part. Like, I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, that's the beer bottle balloon of this series, but I thought it was cute.
But that's believable too to me. I didn't
mind the beer bottle balloon either.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that I mean, it is the perimeter sculpture technically. So like they're escaping in beauty, in art, in a thing that was meant to represent the last light of the world. Well, the innocence of a child's heart is he's the hamster wheel with his buddy Opal in a hamster wheel.
Hey, no matter what happens, the world keeps turning.
It just matters that somebody is turning it. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. Oh, and yeah. the music that was playing in the background as they're doing it is like a variation on a theme from the beginning of the first season. Like when they start going out into the world, you hear this wondrous music, and then and here you have this up tempo, we're doing it music, like, oh, this is a lighthearted moment. Yeah, all right. It's bouncing up and down. And I kind of want to use that in this episode, really. Just don't tell anybody I am. I'll do it at the end. It's penultimate episode. I get to do whatever I want. But just don't tell anybody, okay? Don't tell anyone, because then copyright, whatever. We do have to talk about Iris and Hope. Hope seeing her sister mourning and at a loss over Percy, going up to Mason saying, I put myself through such hell to wrestling with what to do with you, and this is what happens. It's almost like I trusted you, Mason, to stay putting shit up. What do you guys think about that moment? And then Iris having stopped her. That's the more conundrum-y part that I'd like to piece apart with you.
Well, I mean, I think Hope is just mad at the world right now, and Mason was a good outlet. Like, wow. I'm just mad at everything that's happening. I am just mad at life, and everything is going wrong, and you're the one I'm going to blame right now. I mean, Hope. I'm sorry, Hope, not Iris. Hope.
Yeah, no, it's been Hope for the last all episodes of the season, so I could see why you would do that. But that's interesting that you put it that way, though, considering what we just said about Mason. Like, Mason's kind of like, you cock-a-poo-poo family, whatever.
I'm going to give Iris a little credit here.
What?
A little bit of credit here and say that somehow she put her big girl pants on again and decided her sister's well-being was more important than revenge.
Like justice, or revenge, right?
I mean, I'll call it revenge.
Quote unquote justice, yeah.
Her kind of justice, but still, she recognized what was happening and she knew what it would do to her sister, and so she stopped her from doing it, even though she probably wanted her to.
Well, okay, man. Look, she says, I have to go by what she says, and I wish I didn't have to go by what she says. This is me being on your side a little bit when it comes to how you feel about Iris and why you feel it. But from what she says she doesn't want Hope, in light of everything she revealed in the last season to her, finally. And this is the drama I loved most about Hope, and what she had to wrestle with. 3 episodes in, 4 episodes in, finally admitting to Iris at the end of the 3rd episode. I think it was the BOG was the 3rd episode or the 4th? 3rd. Yeah. 3rd. She finally lets it all go, and you'd seen her can you imagine living most of your life feeling this way, and then finally having to let that go? This is what makes Hope very interesting to me as a character. Well, at least made her interesting as a character, and then just kind of stayed there. But then Iris choosing to say, hey, I know what you went through. You don't want to have to go through all of that again. Over this guy and over this to ruin your life because of this. Now, what I want to say is that Iris is a super genius and thought 1,000 miles per minute and said, if you kill this kid, and she's in her head, then first of all, it's not going to bring back Percy. It's not going to bring back the respect you've lost for him. And it certainly will bring hellfire on all of our heads. It's going to escalate. It's going to get out of control. CR is not going to even is no longer going to be thinking about their ethics and the light of the world. They're going to be thinking, oh, I'm going to use all my resources not to be the last light of the world. I'm going to use all my resources to bomb the shit out of this Bennett family. And basically maybe everybody who supported them. It really kind of goes back to the whole Walking Dead thing with Rick not killing Negan. Somebody has to stop, which is why it's always been a very interesting thing to compare Iris to Rick in that respect. Somebody's got to stop. The killing has to stop. You don't know what you're taking from yourself when you decide to take someone else's life. And maybe to go back to what we said just earlier about the kernel that must be the corn pop that's rattling around in Mason's mind right now. Well, if you snuff him out, that kernel will never have a chance to sprout into something or be popcorn or whatever. Kind of like Michonne sparing Virgil in The Walking Dead. Every life, people are a resource, quote unquote, or every spared life has a chance to pay it forward to the next life or be a springboard for somebody else to do good, or, in spite of what they've done or the wrong that they've done. They have the ability to, well, it's not too late. It's never too late. So, and like we all said, he's only had an hour and a half to process all this shit. So It's not his fault. He, just like us, was an innocent person who was dragged into this conflict. And now we're expecting him to, just like we were, to take on the weight of the world. Well, let's spare him. It's not his fault. He's too young to really understand the weight of this. And, fair is fair, but this is kind of unfair. He has a chance to not have to be, kind of like what we were talking about in the last episode about walls. We have to be who we need to be to pass through this moment. Mason, what does he know? He doesn't know this world.
This also made, where Iris is concerned, stopping hope. Percy's death made it real. Because up until now, nobody that they really care about has died. And I'm not talking about Campus Colony, because that's kind of abstract. They weren't there. They didn't see it happen in front of them. But this happened right in front of her, and Percy is dead. And I feel like maybe that just kind of made her realize this is not a game. This is not what you get. It is not a game. It is not, he's not coming back. This is it. It's dead. And I feel like maybe that kind of kicked her into stopping hope too. This is real. It's real. This isn't like, oh, we're gonna get to do it over again. Oh, but no, this is it. He's really dead.
No respawn in life.
Yeah, it really does go back to what that quiet moment that she and Percy had talking about the future. Like, oh, I'm just taking a minute to think about what comes next. We're obviously going to pass this moment without any injury or worry, right? But who can blame them? They're kids. They don't see what could be. So yeah, going back to the Thomas Mann quote, they're literally the opposite of what Jadis was talking about, death and the dead. They're living life as if they have more of it to live. They're not letting the prospect of death diminish their desire to live life to the fullest. This is what I was saying last episode about, we need them to be them. We need them to see the future that could be, whereas we have to think practically. We as adults have to think practically, and we have to make plans, and we have to create contingencies and see the worst in people. Where, the kids like Carl, let's say, this is why I always bring him up. I've been bringing him up lately because that's what he kind of represents. And it's kind of cool. And that's what these kids represent. We represent what could be. Oh, maybe we'll be at the Getty Museum. Maybe we can live at the Getty Museum. Maybe we can grow crops at the Getty Museum. Oceanfront property sounds great to me. How about you? Live life surrounded by beauty? Why not? So then when you have this quiet moment, and then you see that quiet moment near the end, where Percy's end, on the one hand, it made it real, but on the other hand, it made it real. Like, on the one hand, they tried to make their life ahead of them real. And on the other hand, this is what could happen. And that was real. We even said at one point, at some point, she's going to have to realize that this isn't a game. We said that it was going to be Leo. Let's be frank here. From the beginning, we said, oh, Leo is going to be the first on the chopping block, and that's maybe when Iris will stop. Maybe. Who knows if it would have sent her further. I don't know. But it being Percy, that's her future. What she thought would be her future. Sure. Leo is her past. Leo's her father, but, oh, now they took our future, but then they took our future. So they took Campus Colony. They took my past. Sorry, they took my present. Let's say they took Leo. They would have taken my past. And they would have taken, if they took Percy, they would have taken my future. They took everything. They took everything. So maybe that puts into perspective a little bit, like you were saying, about what it must mean for Iris to stop Hope from taking Mason's life, because it would have taken her future. Like, maybe she ends up with Mason all along. Who knows? I'm kidding. Her past was already robbed from her with all the trauma that she had to go through. So
she can have a different and better future with Silas now.
What, Iris? Oh my goodness. Hey, I don't know. Yeah, I guess they have an episode to kind of go through. Oh God. Can you imagine jumping from that to that?
No, that's a huge joke, because that girl, my boy's too good for her now. Get out of here.
That ship has sunk. Yeah, if you think about it right now, it does bring us to the end of the episode where she's finally, just like Huck kind of does, like Iris kind of just finally allows herself to feel something. Talk about holding in farts, like Huck. Like, she finally lets it all go. All the resentment, all the hate, and all the things that she can't do about the situation. Up until the end, they're going to get away, like getting in Mason's face just before they go out there in the world and encounter Jadis. She gets in Mason's face about Portland, even though it's their own necks that she has to be thinking about saving. Well, just like Felix says, we have to put our own mask before we put on other Portland's mask,
Or the gas. She was questioning him about the gas, right? She didn't bring up Portland, did she?
Yeah, because she wants to know where Portland. When you guys deploying to Portland, what's going to happen? What's the deal? Yeah, something to that effect. And then all of a sudden now that doesn't matter anymore because it was made real. She can't even think of anything else. She's letting go. And she happens to be around the other 3 people that she was in the beginning of the series. And she's letting herself have a moment.
Well, yeah, I also think we're seeing Iris go through something right now. I don't know if I can say yet that she's given up on, trying to stop everybody, because she's going through some real shit right now. Like you said, shit finally got real for her, and she needs to take a moment to digest all of that. But when she feels it all and goes through it all on the other side, she might be even more pissed off now, right? Like, what if killing Percy makes her worse?
I can't even wrap my head around it. It does kind of bring us back around to Mason, doesn't it, though? Like, because when you've lived life the way you have for as long as you have with a thing in your mind, and something like a brick wall suddenly hits you, well, then what? Do you keep going through it? or do you feel the pain of the brick wall hitting your face and be like,
Depends
ouch,
on the person.
I thought I would go through this wall, but I didn't. So now, I don't know.
Well, if you're Iris, you blow it up and go through anyway, right?
Maybe. I mean,
Maybe.
You know what?
Depends on the person.
Yeah,
right?
It really does. It really does. All I know is that when something like that happens, no matter what you do afterwards, it still has changed you. You can't deny that it's changed you. So how that changes her, I'm curious to see after all this that we've been seeing for 9 episodes.
Right.
Or 8
I feel
and
like
a half,
she can go one. I feel like Iris could go one of 2 ways right now. She's either gonna collapse into herself and just be a ball of emotions dealing with the death of Percy, or it's gonna light a fire under her ass and she's gonna be more gung ho to bring them down than ever.
Yeah, but if she does, I have a feeling that if she does, feelings, who needs them? But if she does, I feel that she might be a little bit smarter about it. Like, now she knows the consequences. Now Percy,
hopefully,
meet Leo, meet Felix, meet Hope. Which is why I think maybe she tells Hope to put it down. This is real. This isn't a game. It's not what you get, like you said. So I don't know, maybe that'll come back up again. I kind of want to see if that's what you. Maybe Hope is the one to say that's what you get at some point. Be like, hey, that's my line. No, you lost that line when Percy died, bitch. Excuse me.
You were saying earlier how Mason should, or maybe he does feel responsible for Percy's death, but I think Iris is going to end up taking on that burden. I think she'll feel responsible.
Oh, that's interesting. That is a hell that one has to bear.
If she's still human, she might feel a bit of responsibility for what happened to Percy. It's not good that he died, but it kind of is, because she does see the reality of it now, and now she can look at all of her friends and go, oh shit, my actions may get you killed. I need to take my foot off the gas and figure out where I'm going.
Yeah, pull the car over, throw up a little bit. That's what you get. Yeah, wow, you've given me a lot to think about coming into the last episode of the freaking series.
I don't know what's going to happen, but I already told Sharon this. I don't know what's going to happen, but I am going to be so pissed if Agent Dennis dies from this stupid bullet wound that we've seen so many people survive before.
How many times has Rick been punctured in the abdomen by a bullet or a rebar or in that same spot?
At least 3 times, I think.
Oh my God.
And John took the same wound.
Yep.
And
Morgan, I think. Too.
And June, it wasn't a bullet wound, but she had a wound in the same area as well.
So John sewed up with fishing line? Yeah. Yeah.
So, come on, Agent Dennis, pull it together.
Come on, you Austrian god. just clench your muscles and just heal it back. Just beat it up to heal up faster. Come on, bitch.
I was waiting for him to just flex his abs, and then the bullet just shoots out.
Right. I think that's what Silas was waiting for.
Yeah.
Silas kind of puts Elton's hand and goes, no, watch. Agent Dennis goes, pew. But it is pretty sad to watch. I mean, to add Annette Mahendru, man, they were holding her ass. She was like a secret weapon. It's like they made it so that she probably went into the producer's room. She said, guys, listen, I can't cry until the second to last episode, okay, of this series. Because when I do, I want that audience in the palm of my hand. And, well, I'm all hers. I'm all hers.
Right here.
I swear to God. watching her break down. Like, do you remember at the reaction video? I don't know if we're gonna ever air it, but the first thing I noted was her hair coming down, and which is a good comparison to June from the series from Fear the Walking Dead.
Her
sad hair coming down. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then so now she gets to be sad because she has sad hair, and of course we're sad, and I don't have hair to be sad about. But if you could imagine it on my head, it would be there. I have a sad beard. I have a sad curly beard. Ooh, yeah.
Do you think Dennis is dead?
No. I thought that when I saw her gripping the ring.
When she came out crying, and she came out and she was crying and holding the ring. I'm like, Dad, did he die?
Yeah,
this is me in denial, probably.
I was worried at first, but when I rewatched it, I don't think he's dead. I think this is a continuation of her breaking down and realizing, what her and Dennis went through. And I don't know if that really started the whole thing. Or I guess it kind of did, because her punishment was going there and doing this. And so what they went through was the catalyst for this whole stinking thing.
Their end was their beginning. Like Dennis and Huck's end was the kid's beginning kind of thing. So whatever. But we don't see that. I think
she was just done holding it all in and couldn't do it anymore. And then she holds the wedding ring too, like, gosh, I don't,
like a prayer.
I wish I could,
let's just say.
I know. I wish I could pinpoint.
Holding it hopefully instead of sadly.
Instead of irisly.
Yes. Yeah. Like maybe we can come back from this or something.
Yeah.
If he survives, we can come back from this.
I'm gonna say something very.
He's not dead.
I'm gonna say something very uncharacteristic of me.
There we go.
That I felt like they could have. This is gonna sound very weird, but I felt like between Victor saying the universe gave me this building and the universe gave me Momo, or gave Morgan Momo, and then like also things like I'm seeing Annette Huck grip this wedding ring on her necklace and the dog tags, and I keep thinking to myself, I'm not a really religious person, but like, can't somebody believe in God on these shows? Like, can't there be something higher that she could appeal to pray for Dennis? I'm an atheist, and I'm like, that's fine with me. Go pray if you want to pray. You can do that. Please pray for your husband to pull through. You know what I mean? Because I felt like it was a holding back, because there was something more because that's that little bit of CR that's left in her that says, oh no, we are the light of the world. Like, what am I going to pray to? There's nothing out there.
That's exactly what I was just about to say.
No way.
Yeah. Yes. Who is she going to pray to when her deity basically just failed her?
Right.
Who is she going to pray to?
Herself just failed her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the CRM.
The CRM has been her religion.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Or the military, because she was a Marine before.
Yeah. Well, I guess it just...
And maybe she's atheist too. We don't know that she believes in anything.
She's like literally doing this. She has her hands together. She's like this close to having her hands with prayer hands. The pray hands an emoji, right? Well, I guess it goes to show though, right? That's the fact that I'm this frustrated about it shows how well she's selling this moment, right? Like, I want to pray to somebody, but there's nobody to pray to, but I just wanted to pull through.
Well, I also think we get a lot of religious aspect on The Walking Dead. And so I think it's kind of a breath of fresh air that they don't bring heavy religion into World Beyond, because it could potentially drive people away too.
I just don't think they understand the audience that they have. I mean, maybe. I mean, I feel like most TV shows are like that, though, where they kind of do... I'm not saying the shows should show God and stuff like that. I mean, it's funny, like, even this show kind of doesn't shy away from other deities, let's say, or, like, other potential religions. Like, so it was take for example, the whole Asha praying and stuff like that, And we know Asha is Indian. It's not implicit. It is implicit, it's not explicit. And there is that whole beauty in the darkness thing, and maybe they want to attribute the beauty more to an aesthetic or a more in contrast to the dark, this light that we see within the dark sort of thing. And so maybe you're right. Maybe it is too difficult to kind of just make an easy cheat code to God when the thing that we're trying to contrast is real and as a result of the zombie apocalypse, right? The deities that are found in the darkness, let's say, rather than being on the nose and being, oh, God, help me and Dennis. Ooh, no, it's a bridge too far. But maybe, well, her pulling herself aside, trying to find somebody or something to pray to is the very thing that ends up allowing her to find what are those called?
Shipping
containers full of Votus gas. Jadis's farts. Her noxious gas, knockout gas.
And it's green.
And it's green. It's very cartoony. Barca died from those farts. Anyway, it's literally what we kind of say about, well, this person's death has meaning in that it moves the story forward. Like, had Dennis not died here and where he was and the punishment that he paid for, and then she wouldn't have found the gas, right? That would have killed 100 or 87,000 more people. So that is what we call meaning. It's like, it sucks that it happens, but if something happens as a result of it that moves the story forward in hopefully a better way, then that's what that means. Now, does that mean that Dennis is dead? Well, I hope not. His abs brought him back to life. His abs performed CPR for him. They're that. We are Squawking Dead. Civilian takeover, because it was coming, like we all said, that they needed to do this one last ugly but merciful thing on behalf. It's very cartoony. Barca died from those farts. Anyway, it's literally what we kind of say about, well, this person's death has meaning in that it moves the story forward. Like, had Dennis not died here and where he was and the punishment that he paid for, and then she wouldn't have found the gas, right? That would have killed 100 or 87,000 more people. So that is what we call meaning. It's like, it sucks that it happens, but if something happens as a result of it that moves the story forward in hopefully a better way, then that's what that means. Now, does that mean that Dennis is dead? Well, I hope not. His abs brought him back to life. His abs performed CPR for him. They're that powerful.
Shit, his abs brought me back to life.
2 times. Like a slip and slide. Anyway, so Jadis is explaining to Huck that which rightly so, the Bennetts are motivated by a sense of justice. They're still here because they want to make sure they take us down. Well, I've got news for them. I moved the gas. I moved my farts to a different facility. Still, it got me thinking about what the CRM's motivations are. It really does bring you back to what the quote of this episode is death in the dead, right? They're motivated because I really had thought about what Jadis says to the kids and Mason Beale, who happens to be there, but what they had done. So to spell it out, the CRM did some models on the production of based on intel that they received from Huck in both her infiltrations, and maybe some shared data between scientists, the Portland, Campus Colony, Omaha, but based on all their projections, they basically estimated that all these colonies would be a drain on the Civic Republic, and at best, these other communities, they would slowly die from famine, and at worst, they would bring disease and strife. That's not the word strife, but conflict to the CR itself.
Basically, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse would visit.
Nice.
The 4 horsewomen.
Well, death, pestilence. Well, conflict wasn't one of them, but death is one of them.
War,
yeah, you're right.
War, pestilence, famine, and death.
Right. Interesting, right? Now, I had to think about this, though. What would be the internal conflict at the CR as a result of this? I mean, it does parallel nicely to season 9 again of The Walking Dead. Like the little conflict that everybody has. Daryl, the whole reason why Daryl's in a pit with Rick is like, okay, Maggie and Daryl have this agreement that what Rick's trying to pull is going to be a drain on all the other communities, the sanctuary and all that stuff. But I had to think of it. Like, what if the Civic Republic found out about the conundrum, about this extrapolated data? They would be hemming and hawing, politicking and postulating and posturing, and their ethics would get in the way. So the Civic Republic felt that they needed, before the civilian civilian takeover, because it was coming, like we all said, that they needed to do this one last ugly but merciful thing on behalf of the Civic Republic. I mean, when you really think about what they're trying to do to protect the Civic Republic, but being the ugly executioner that they are, to be the last light of the world, it's almost like, I mean, I could see where they're coming from, and I know this is really gross, But like I can see sort of where they're coming from in a weird way. If we don't trust the civilian government enough to make the hard call, we have to make it for them. It's kind of like what we were saying in the last episode. Hey, Leo, I'm not leaving it something like this, like wringing Lila's neck, up to you. I would rather it be me so that you could be the human that I come to when I need to be pulled back from the brink. I'll be the executioner. You preserve yourself to preserve me, you know? So take that and then bring that into a grand scale. That's what the Civic Republic military is doing by culling these other communities. Like, okay, when we leave this government in the hands of the civilian government, we got to leave it with knowing that their future is in good hands. They can't account for everything, but they're trying to account for this. What do you think of this grisly fucking thing, though? Like, it's really hard to bring that to bear.
I think by killing all these people, like the 100,000 people that they've already killed, and however many more they're going to kill in Portland, they're creating that many more risks for the CR. I mean, they're literally turning people into weapons where they weren't before. They may have been a threat, but now they're an active risk. Like, now they're reanimated because, you know, we know the farts aren't working, so they are in fact reanimating, and they're going to go to the one and only place in the country that they can find food, which is the CR, right?
Oh, right.
I mean,
well, you're
they're
going
the last light.
Well, see, they didn't watch Squawking Dead, and know that
well, that's their
that
fault.
walkers will eventually find massive amounts of people. Yeah. See.
Yeah. It didn't really ever make sense to me because they're creating 100,000 more walkers now that are eventually going to have to be dealt with.
Well, of course it doesn't make sense to you because you don't think like they do. I mean, if knowing what we knew about the CR from the very jump, how mysterious they were, how effective they were ostensibly, like at the time, you're like, oh, obviously they'll be the last light of the world. I mean, look, think. Wait. Let's go be more specific. Even we were saying they have a point. So in some places in our discussion, we're like, maybe they did some bad things, but maybe they're the only way to go, right? Maybe kind of like Dennis is saying, there's some flaws, but we can fix that. But now we know maybe this is a question more than an assumption. Is this all unfixable? Is telling the civilian government enough? You know, I mean, is it too late? Are they too far gone? I don't know.
We're also making a big assumption that the civilian government would be appalled by this. What if they're okay with it?
I had mentioned this before. This is like perimeter colony saying, hey, Huck killed my uncle, Percy. They're like, yeah, but she saved us from the Marines, so go fuck yourself. Oh, you're gonna die in a couple episodes? Oh, well, yeah, that'll take care of that. Problem solved.
Yeah, for all we know, the civilian government finds out the truth, and then they go, gosh, thanks, guys. Thanks for doing that, so we didn't have to.
Right. And also, what does the civilian government have to do in response to the CRM? They hold a show. They say, oh, these guys are going to be punished for war crimes, and maybe the CRM knows that that's going to happen. They're prepared for that eventuality. They know that at the end of the day, with everything that they've done, they are prepared to die for the CR. Knowing that the CR can never, ever make reparations with all the people that the CRM killed in their name. Like, how do you make it up to corpses? That's tough. That's real. That's actually made me a little emotional, actually.
The only thing you can do is make sure that the people who are still alive stay alive.
Yeah. Wow. That's really tough to wrap your mind. I mean, it's not, because we have examples from real life, but it's sad that people like Jadis are prepared to die for this. They must know that at some point they would get caught, that somebody would find out.
What if Jadis ends up being the scapegoat for this whole thing, and Major General Beale comes and says, it was all her, you guys, and they execute her in front of the CR, the civilian government, and then everybody's happy because they got their bad guy.
Oh, man, right? But you know what? That's the funny thing, like, about all of this. Even General Beale, Mason General Beale is Major General Beale is advocating for the scientist's retrieval rather than what Jada says, elimination. She's on that Simon bent. So something's fishy here. If you want to compare it to the episode of Fear the Walking Dead we just watched, I mean, Jadis just tried to pull a Morgan and tried to kill Victor and didn't succeed. Thank goodness. She killed Percy. Well, maybe to draw a parallel, she ended up killing one. Just like Negan wanted, right? Mm-hmm. And was spared having to kill all these other scientists. Now, we don't know if those other scientists made it because they pulled ahead of Leo in the second car. So fingers crossed that they make it.
Were they all heading to the place where Felix, Iris, and Hope end up? Because Hope makes a comment, why aren't they here yet? So should the truck that went ahead, should they have already been there?
I'm not sure, actually. What do you say, Sharon D? It sounds like you said that they were supposed to be there, the scientists.
Hope said they should be here by now. But wasn't there 2 trucks in Leo's convoy when he stopped? Wasn't there 2 trucks there? Maybe that was them, and somehow Leo got ahead of them.
No, I think the other one went ahead. I think so. I think they're the scientists were in the car behind them, and I think he put the rest of them in there and allowed them to drive ahead. I think they're still at the Cornell Mall, or I think they're trying to meet up at the Cornell Mall, maybe with all the perimeter colony people.
Where do we know exactly where Felix, Iris, and Hope are before Felix branches off to go back in
colony?
And right. Felix does mention the Cornell Mall.
Was it this episode?
It was, yeah, when Felix, Hope, and Iris get wherever they're at, because Iris has her sad face, and Hope is wondering where everybody is, and then that's when Felix says something along the lines of something about a rendezvous, and then something else about the underground Cornell Mall.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then fine. That's
maybe he doesn't call it by name. Maybe he only said underground, but he did say mall.
Yeah, the underground mall is the Cornell Mall. But yeah, so then okay, then they're keeping to the same plans of the scientists going on ahead, meeting up with Perimeter Colony at the Cornell Mall, and then all of them were supposed to actually end up heading to Portland, essentially. So, but I think Leo and the girls were supposed to meet up at the rendezvous point so that they can head over to the culling facility to pick up Silas and Elton et al. So. Okay. Or whatever else they were supposed to do. But then now, fortuitously, that's where the gas is, so that's where they're headed anyway. So, boop, 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 boop. Wrapped up.
So my next question is, Felix goes to help Leo. We see Hope and Iris still wherever this mystery location is. And then the next time we see them, they're in the middle of the woods. Didn't Felix tell them to stay there?
Oh, well, because they got radioed by Huck about...
But that happens while they're in the forest. They're like in the trees, and then they see Elton and Silas, and they're like, oh, and Hope and Elton have their hug, and then we hear from Huck.
I thought they were outside of the house when they saw, like, right in the vicinity of the rendezvous house when they saw Elton and Silas.
That's what I'm wondering. Were they? Because it didn't look like the same. They were surrounded by a lot more trees than they were in the previous scene.
I mean, look, I'm okay with squaring it with Felix going after Leo and then them rendezvousing over at the culling and maintenance facility. Because that's where they're going to end up anyway. So it doesn't matter anyway. But either way, that's where they're going to end up.
We need to start calling our watch parties rendezvous.
Rendezvous.
What do you guys think about the beginning scene? How effectively they took out those soldiers with the BO4 bombs?
That was cool.
That was cool.
That was cool.
Did anybody else see Felix kind of having a hard time? It looked like it wasn't sitting right with him. He even says, no going back now. And he says it kind of, they're doing bad things for the right reasons now too. So are we the bad guys?
Yeah. Well, or at least what I noted in the beginning was like, now who's the executioners, you know?
Yeah.
But they're feeling the weight of that. And maybe to your point, you know, is this what the CRM maybe felt the first time they had to kill a whole 100,000 people community? No, I'm kidding.
That they had to.
Yeah, I mean, what was the first CRM mission like? Is that going to be a Tales of the Walking Dead, right? Like, do you know what I mean? Ooh. Like, what does that look like? What does doing bad what is Major General Beale's first kill? What does that look like? How did they get to where they had to get to? Or maybe Lila's whole backstory is emblematic of what they felt like they needed to do.
Sounds like a story for Tales of the Walking Dead.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I even know in the beginning, like, just in spite of me making fun of myself about reacting to Mason, even in the beginning of my notes, I said, Mason seeing all of this up close. I mean, this is the first thing that Mason sees that's monstrous, that they do this. I'm glad you brought it back to the beginning. Well, we all kind of went there. We all went for this ride. I just dragged you along with me. But that's the first thing he sees is this monstrous act against the soldiers. Them blowing basically almost all the soldiers at that base up, right? All the numbers that they have in this research facility gone in a flash from the 5 different entry points where all the soldiers went in. So we created a monster while fighting against monsters. And Hope is the one to do the last one. And Mason sees this. So, of course, I should know better. I should have known. And I shouldn't judge so much. Even though, fuck that kid. Kid's face off. He's so good. He's such an attractive young man. And then he has to do something like that and headbutt Iris and then make Percy dead. I mean, you guys are starting to like Percy, right? I mean, you defended him a little too. Like when I was like, oh, I'm sus on Percy. But like now look at me. No, look at what I've done. I judged the young man before it was time.
I mean, he was starting to make a comeback, but I'm not ready to say I liked him.
Well, what about you, Sharon D? You did kind of. You're like, yeah, I kind of get him. I kind of like him.
Yeah, I don't mind. I didn't mind Percy. I was okay with it. Actually, I was like, no, he was pretty straightforward. I didn't mind Percy at all. But I didn't have the feeling about the Silas and Iris
that you had, Rachel.
Like Rachel.
Yeah. That's the whole reason why you're on the fence.
Yes.
It was kind of sad that he, yeah.
And it makes me, I don't know, like a funny kind of angry at the end when Silas is like, Percy? Like, what do you care? What do you care about Percy? So there was a moment that I wanted to get your guys' take on because I'm still not entirely sure what I saw.
The frozen head thing?
No, that was its own issue.
Okay.
But specifically, when Hope was killing Walker Lila.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, we're in the same vicinity. Okay.
Yes, yeah. Same area, but different moment. She realizes who the Walker is, and then she's trying to slam her head in while she's having all these flashbacks of Lila. Yeah, and Huck a little bit talking about how safe the facility is, and, look at what she's having to do now. Like, is it really that safe? But on the other hand, you guys kind of made it unsafe. But anyway, I digress. She's having all these flashbacks, and I thought she was, like, having a sentimental moment, like, feeling bad about what she had to do right then, right? But then she does the thing, she looks at her, and Felix is like, you all right? And she's like, yeah, I'm good, let's go.
And yeah, she goes...
I'm like, what?
She goes, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, what just happened?
I mean...
Did I miss something?
Sharon's got
How
something.
did you guys see that?
Sharon's got something.
She's just trying to be. I can't deal with this right now. Let's just move on.
But do you think she felt something when she had to kill
Walker
Lila?
I think.
Okay.
I think, Lila was the first person there who was really nice to her, and I feel like, she felt bad about what she had to do, but then Felix is like, you okay? And she's like, yeah, we can't deal with this now. We just got to go. Don't worry about me. I'll handle this part later. Let's go do what we got to do.
I wonder if she'll have to
I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about this right now. I have other things to worry about. I don't want to have to deal with this right now.
It sounds a lot like Iris, too, in a way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if Hope will end up telling Leo what she had to do, or that she found Lila. I mean, she wouldn't have to. There's no reason Leo needs to know that, but
yeah. I mean, the one thing Negretti says in the after the episode exclusive on AMC Plus, he says, and Hope finding Lila like this shows like that this is this is the reward they give to people who expire in their name. They become science experiments too, and they nothing gets wasted at the CRM, right?
Yeah.
So
because that was definitely not the same room that Lila died in, right?
No. She was taken to this room. Remember that she was in the.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, she was in the observation lab. Where they had not even the walkers that we classically seen in the first season in the Stingers, right? She wasn't even in that room. She definitely wasn't in the freezer, but she was definitely in the observation room where Barker had expired. That's where she got killed, and then they moved her into the freezer, just like all the other, poked and prodded subjects were, where they took the skin off, right? The little squares that were on the bodies that Felix found the first time around. That's where she was. Yeah. In spite of what Negretti says, it's kind of like what you're saying, Sharon D. She was the first person that was nice to her. She saw her as a potential mother figure, for the one that was taken away from her in her childhood trauma. Let's not forget that. And to boot, with Huck there, and then both saying, in her flashbacks, saying, this is a safe place. Maybe this is someplace I can gravitate towards. I can focus on bringing about the future. It may not be perfect. They may have done things, but they convinced me that maybe this was the way forward. They convinced me, let's say, that in spite of, we got to do bad to do good, that maybe even though they did a horrendous act, that we could maybe plow through it and figure this out together. Maybe it could be the last light, but we just got to fix a few things, like Dennis says, right? But it's all wasted. It's all shit. You want to really compare it to something physical? Think about the very first thing you see in the pilot episode. And what is that? It's Iris's dream. What is she dreaming about? Being a walker. And what is Hope seeing? A literal walker, a little representation of what she could turn into if she started questioning things, if she started saying the wrong things, if she started asking the wrong questions. Is that any way to live? Is that life? Am I going to have to parcel off my soul just to guarantee a place in the future? Is this really safe, Huck? Because it doesn't seem that way. We're in the shit now, guys. So I can see her being frustrated as all hell. Like her wrestling with the prospect of trusting Mason in spite of everything, about holding him hostage, I'm sure, and still holding on to these principles. So she's wrestling with all of it. And so I think she's at the breaking point where she's like, no, it's like the last shred of hope that the CR or the CRM could be anything of any value to her, because she still sees the value of the CR until that point. She goes, maybe we could come back from this. And then ending Lila at that moment, she's like, let's just get the fuck out of here. There's no redeeming this. And in that, she's betrayed a second time. She's sold a bill of goods about what her future is supposed to be. And that's heartbreaking. And maybe that enables her to almost break bad on Mason's face with a bullet. Right? Because it's like, think about, okay, I know I'm rambling a bit, but bear with me, because there's a point to this. It all makes sense now what Iris does to stop Hope. Maybe Iris sees the moment that she has with Walker Lila in her twin brain, like Wendell and Sarah from Fear the Walking Dead. Maybe she has twin brain, where she's starting to feel that, what it was like for her to bury that part of her that feels like she has any value because she did a monstrous act. And now here she is again. She was somebody that was promised something, a future, and because she made a mistake, it was all taken away from her. The mistake she's making in the process, harboring Mason, this idea that she has this future, and now it's being ripped away from her again. And now when that gets taken away, she feels like she can never be of value again. And so what does she care? Kill Mason, fuck it. What does it matter anymore, right? Yeah. But then Iris says, no. There's still a tomorrow after this. And if there's gonna be a tomorrow after this, we need you whole. So now that makes more sense to me now. It's not done quite the way that it's depicted, but now that scene, because just like you guys, I wonder myself, is it enough, the tragedy with Percy, to get Iris to stop Hope? I was almost kind of like, I'm actually wondering in the back of my mind, are the girls gonna think that, or find this acceptable? Like, that Iris all of a sudden makes a turnaround and stops Hope? is Sharon D and Rachel going to think this is enough? Because I almost...
Enough to, like, redeem her?
No. Not redeem, but, like, also...
I'm like, what?
Are they going to buy it? That's what I was thinking in the back of my mind.
I do honestly think Iris loves and cares about her sister. Okay. I do. I mean, as much as I dislike Iris, I think she cares about her sister, and I don't think she would want her to go through what she went through after killing Amelia, right? And that's where she would go. She would hate her, even if in this moment it was maybe for the right reasons. But it would still eat away at her, because I think Hope deep down is a good person, and killing someone doesn't sit well with good people. Right. Iris.
Wow, you're killing the right people though, right? Like more kill the right people.
Yeah. But this would be in cold blood. I mean, he wasn't attacking her. This wasn't self-defense. She walked up to him and pointed a gun in his face.
Right.
It'd be different if it was in self-defense. But it wasn't.
All right. I'll accept it. I was worried. I was actually worried if you guys would actually swallow that. Well, if you do swallow that, then you get to see her pain. You get to see her finally break down. You get to see her start unraveling, and then therefore, what was it that she was holding in? Why? See, I'm still not resolved on that. Like, what was holding in Iris's fart? Like, what is the thing that makes her not give up on this vengeance quest, this quest for quote unquote justice? Right? Maybe we'll get to see all of it come to bear next episode.
Oh, they got one more episode to wrap it up.
Gosh. I'm going to draw one more parallel, and that's, do you remember when, of course you do, it involves Agent Dennis. Remember when Dennis was saying to Silas, your friends can take care of themselves, stop. There's nothing out there. There's nothing for you. Stop looking for them. You're going out there as a nothing burger. There's nothing for you. And then the very thing that Dennis says to Felix and Elton to go find your friends. I thought that was kind of an interesting, like, I'm with you. Like, I get you. In this ugly world with CRMs out there, go find your friends because you're going to need them. But there's kind of an interesting, like, little parallel finally comes around to them. And then he squeezes abs and he got better. Whatever. Jokes.
How about Silas running into Webb?
Yeah, it's exactly what I was going to say. I found that very interesting because it also still parallels well with actually Sharondy's question about, well, if they're doing all this to save Mason Beale, isn't that going against their ethics? And now here we are with Webb not immediately shooting Silas on sight, which is what he was supposed to do. I thought that was kind of sweet.
It kind of sounds like he's still questioning whether Silas is or isn't part of this group. So if he takes the shot and he's wrong, what does that mean for his place in the CRM? He doesn't want to be wrong.
I would have agreed with you initially, but then he says we were supposed to shoot you guys on sight, and he's not doing it. And he's still trained his sights on Silas. And I think the hesitation is real. And I think that says a lot about human nature and children and human nature. And it's hard to program all this shit into a kid. I mean, it's what we said about the kids before we even saw the series. What is it like to be told to not be yourself, to not look towards the future as anything? Your present means nothing. Everything you do is in service of the future. You can't, it's not going to work. It's not going to work, except with Iris. And then she feels betrayed by that. So it's heartbreaking, though, too, because then Webb pays for that. Even though he doesn't kill Silas. Well, and then Elton knocks him out, and that's a funny moment unto itself.
That was funny.
So I just left to be desired.
He's like, who is that guy?
Doesn't matter.
Anyway.
He'll be out for a while. The weight of seeing your friend almost kill you doesn't matter, really. I'm your friend. Let's go. Oh, boy. The dynamic duo are back. I mean, the only big question I have still is, I think we answered it, but like, why does Iris stop Pope ultimately? Is it because of that? I'm still being an asshole about that. Like, it still feels something there. Like, something is off there, but I'll accept what they say is the reason. And given...
I want to believe it's because she cares about Hope's well-being.
I do too.
Mental state. That's what I want to believe.
I do too. And I think really discussing the events of the freezer and seeing Lila Belshaw, Walker, empty Belshaw.
Empty Belshaw.
does bring that back home, right? Empty Belshaw. Well, she was after Hope was done with her. Yeah.
Now she's headless Belshaw.
Empty-headed. Yeah. Anyway, but what we were talking about?
Oh my gosh.
The frozen heads. When I first saw Felix plunge or try to plunge, see, my first thought was he did plunge the blade into the Empty's head, and then I thought I was seeing something new, like, oh, frozen brains apparently don't take them down so much.
I have one question. It's either if their brains are frozen, or is it the skin that's still frozen? I'm wondering how they're awake if their brain is frozen, because isn't that the main system here? So if that's still frozen,
only what you would call the lizard brain, which is the basic core. The basic core of your motor, what makes your motor functions, like it makes you walk and eat and whatnot. That isn't frozen, but all around it is. Like all the brain matter around it is frozen, because that's kind of in the middle, like it didn't get to that frozen yet.
But if you have frozen chicken breast and you leave it out on the counter to thaw out all day, it thaws from the outside in, right? So the center of the brain would be frozen. It would last.
It would freeze from the outside in, so the outside would freeze before the center did.
Right, but we know that these were frozen solid through because we already saw them frozen.
Sharondy's explaining, though.
Do you know what I mean?
In a roundabout way, Sharondy's explaining that maybe they weren't fully frozen, though, right? Is that what you're saying? So maybe the center of their brain was still working.
But we saw Felix down there interacting with them, and they weren't reacting to him. right?
Well,
from what I remember.
What Charity's saying is that they may have just been thrown down there and not there long enough. The outside is frozen and not the inside of their brain. So that little warm, squishy center, it's possible.
Okay. Their little gooey center is still working.
Yeah, right.
Okay, these are newer walkers.
Yeah, biomatter. Well, because you know what explains that a lot better.
Walker sickles.
Yeah. What explains that a lot better are the ones that didn't start moving yet, right? Because you go in initially and you see them still strapped, and none of them are moving yet.
Yes, that was why. That was where my confusion came in. I'm like, they're clearly still frozen, but when he stabs him, he can't get through. And I'm like, well, then how is the brain functioning if it's still I had 1,000 thoughts going through my head and no answers.
Yeah. So, what Charity says makes sense to me. Like, if they had just been thrown down there that day or the day before, and they haven't fully frozen all the way through, but just the outside's just enough so they can't move until, like, okay, it thawed out just enough so their hands could move and shit. And then they move around. But so they never got fully frozen is essentially the thing. Yeah.
I was looking at these walkers like they were ones strapped down with skin missing. I thought they were. Yeah,
maybe some of them
those walkers
de-thawed faster than others, or who knows. But that could be
again,
too. Yeah,
they're still frozen on the outside, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Either way, such a minor discrepancy. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah. The one thing that I just like, my initial reaction was like, oh my God, you can stab them in the head and they still keep moving. Oh my God, what does that mean? And then I realized, because, and it's pretty dark, you really can't tell at first. And and then you realize, okay, he never really got past the skull so much. So, he hit it, but then he just couldn't get through it.
Did his S-pull break?
No, it just didn't go any further.
Just wouldn't go through. Okay.
So there you go. So I thought I was seeing something, but we didn't see anything. So thank goodness. Otherwise, I would have talked about it for every episode.
A fridge.
What was that?
Like tossing a fridge, chopping all this, just chipping this shit out.
Yeah. I have one more discrepancy since we're on it. If they had put Lila down in the freezer after she died, why was she so decayed? Wouldn't she have been preserved?
Well, it's the same as Barca.
They may not have put her in the freezer right away. Like, they had to let her turn and be gross for a while. Oh, they were busy. They had other shit to worry about. They got people trying to blowing up the fucking CRF. They got more shit to worry about than dead Lila down in the fucking basement.
Yeah, let her fend for herself. Let her wander around there.
Well, I agree. They would have, taken her out of the thing with Barca and put her right down in the freezer, right? I'm agreeing with you.
The truth is, it's like, you're asking like a bigger question, because when you think about it, why do walkers initially look look at the Fear the Walking Dead episode. Why do they immediately look gross? Like the people in the elevator shaft in Fear the Walking Dead.
It should take time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
however,
it should take time to look like that.
However, I'm starting to think that because of their death, let's say, because they have to die to reanimate, that the gases inside their body have to make their way out, and whatever the way they do, maybe it goes by way of the face, head, and the eyeballs, and the whatnot, and the thin.
And there's no more blood flow,
right?
So
things get sunken in, fluids start releasing themselves, and things start.
If we didn't have
gross.
blood pumping through our veins, we would be a very different color. Than this.
And we'd be able to see the bony outlines and whatnot, probably. So maybe that explains a lot of that too. And her being in a freezer. Well, the gooey stuff just gets hardened on the outside or something. I don't know, or finds its way out eventually in a different way. I don't know.
Such minor beef, though.
Yeah,
these are the things that enter my brain.
Well, you asked a question that I'd always kind of really wondered about, to be honest with you. So
cool.
Yeah. Now I get to address it messily.
Yay.
Taking the bullet out of Dennis. We didn't really talk about that, but there's not really much to talk about. Although,
it happened.
I will note that he never takes a swig of that alcohol. Interesting.
He's an alcoholic. That's not interesting at all. He's a very strong man.
But you'd think, like, also in the apocalypse, that shouldn't be a big problem, and yet he's concerned with it. It's very interesting.
The state of the world doesn't matter.
Talk to Dory Senior about that.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I don't think the state of the world matters if you're an alcoholic. You carry that with you every day, no matter what's going on, and it makes Dennis that much stronger for turning it down.
It makes his abs that much more impressive.
Maybe his willpower.
Yeah, his willpower. Okay. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
His willpower.
Yeah. Being determined not to make those kinds of mistakes again, also. That's a clear reminder. Or possible.
Take just one sip, fall down that hole again.
Yeah. Yeah, it ruined his marriage.
And he just got Jennifer back.
Yeah, exactly.
He just got Jennifer back. He's not risking it. Yeah.
I mean, what is the first thing that gets him on the road to that recovery is Silas, to be honest with you, though, a little bit. And maybe seeing Huck the first time, sure, in a long time, but still.
Because he gives the bottle to Silas.
Yeah. Says,
and even then I'm like, ooh, don't do that, no.
He's not good with that shit either. He passes out and wrenches people. Oh, wait, no, never mind. That didn't happen.
He can't handle his liquor either. Don't give it to him.
Yeah. Silas is a fun drunk, anyway. I don't know. He seemed pretty happy. Until something destroyed his life and traumatized him, Huck. Anyway.
Yeah.
But speaking of, he does kind of backwardsly forgives her to Dennis. So it's that kind of is an interesting resolution. When I thought he might have at some point messed up her world. It's the only way I can put it.
What's a worse situation to be in? To be blamed for killing someone or to be killed?
Yeah, to be killed.
Because Huck could have killed him.
Yeah.
Huck could have killed him.
Yeah.
Could have killed Silas. But instead she just blamed a murder on him.
Well, I like that what he says. He says I says she was just thought she was trying to save the world, and
yeah.
I don't blame her for that. Not really. I mean, if I was dead, I'd blame her for that. Anyway.
Yeah, that would definitely be her fault.
I mean, we could always talk about more shit, but there's really nothing to talk about. You know what this is, right?
We touched it all.
This is gross.
We got our sticky fingers in there all over
we got our Lila.
And...
Gross. Anyway. No, this is us saying like, oh, we don't want this to end in a way. It's the truth. We don't want this to end. It's really weird being here from the start to finish.
I'll feel that way more next week. It'll be hard to sign off next week.
Yeah, but with that, I will say it's been such a great ride. I have high hopes for the episode which Sharondy will promptly watch after this breakdown. Because we've kept her waiting long enough.
All day.
All day. A whole day.
I mean, I had to wait for Fear, and that should tell you something. I slept in this morning so I wouldn't have to worry about finding something to do so I wouldn't watch the episode.
Oh my God, I've been up since 7 a.m. trying to get a lot of shit done before even recording. But, it's funny. As much as, and I was conscious of this every time I would complain about this. I really was. Like, as much as I complain, and I'll just speak on my own behalf about all the recording that we've been having to do in the timing that we've had to do it or attempt to, and then all the editing that I have to do, and all the clips that you have to do, and all the blog notes that you have to do, Rachel. I mean, as much as I complain about it, I'm so fully conscious of the fact that, like, when it's all over, I'm going to feel it, and it's going to hit me very hard. And, all the show that we've been privileged to watch. I'm glad, but I'm also like, I wish we could slow down. And this is the regret that I have. I really wish they didn't do this. I really wish they didn't put these two shows back to back, because I really, really wanted to appreciate them more in the moment, like everybody else. And, we do our best. And we try to give you the show that you deserve and the feelings that we try to experience in the moment so that we can bring these analyses to you, the viewer or the watcher or the listener. I only hope that we did the best that we could. And so moving into the last episodes, the mid-season finale of Fear the Walking Dead and the series finale of The Walking Dead World Beyond, I only hope that we did right by you. And if we have it to ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead and let us know if we did satisfy your hunger and curiosity and give you insights that you can't find anywhere else. Or if you have found them anywhere else, we're better. So let us know what we got right. Let us know if we got something wrong. But let us know after every episode, including these Walking Dead World Beyond breakdowns. And if you really, really enjoy what we're doing and you want to be on the inside, to be in the chat while we record these analyses and to get the unedited episode recordings early, so that you can be the first one to hear our complaints about these episodes or our praises and the value thereof. Head over to ko-fi.com/squawkingdead and just follow us. You don't have to join a membership tier, and you don't have to buy us a coffee to get 30 days of supported back content. It's just a good way to know when we're dropping a recording sesh, when we've dropped early access to episode recordings. It's a good way to know what we're doing behind the scenes so that you can be more involved. And if you do decide to tip us and get 30 days of access to supported back content, or decide to join one of the membership tiers, we'll know that it's a signal that you want to be invested in our development and that you want to be in on what we've got going on. Let us know and help us grow. And with that, everybody, I've been your host, David Cameo, and I was joined by Cosmom Zero Nine, Rachel Burt, and Sharon aka Blazy Gardner. We're going to see you guys very soon, and we will hold your damn hands for the series finale of The Walking Dead World Beyond. It's been a distinct pleasure. I am very glad we got to do this from start to finish, and we'll see you in the next one, the final one.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. See you soon.